We are doing the obligatory health check for the bovines. That is mostly to find out who is the carrier of tuberculosis. And those that test positive on Friday need then, it is mandatory, be sent to the slaughterhouse. That is how tuberculosis is going to be eradicated. At least that's the plan for a few decades now. It seems to be working, but of course there are lots of issues, and I better not start telling about these at the moment. And then we are in the process of selling the rest, so that we end up with 0 cattle, because they have turned out to be an issue. More details I have in a dedicated video about this. And so this is basically the end of our cattle ranching. If you look closer, you will also see that some are more on the skinny side now. It depends how much forage they were able to gather. Here in the corral there was a little bit, but out there in our different areas you can see that they ate it all, and without rain there will be no more forage. The alternative would be to invest money and buy straw and alfalfa pellets. We hope we can get away not doing this, given that they will leave really soon.
¿Y dónde está la máquina? Recoge por ahí, recoge esa máquina ahí. Vale, 97 11 y ya le echamos a la calle. ¿El becerro también? ¿Sí? Espera, cierra, cierra.
We're almost done with most of them, only a few are missing. If you see a cow with some blood, she had an accident. She put her head inside of a place where she should not do this, and then the horns got a little bit affected, but this is going to be cured. Lack of forage makes them pretty skin. They are on the bad side now. What you see are the last ones, and once they come out the other end, we are done, and we will then know how many carriers of tuberculosis we have.
Pero que este delante no tenía carga la pistola. Espera. Vale, va, tengo el cuerno por aquí. Espérate, es que...
So, the results are in, and I'm very happy to report that we have 0 cases of tuberculosis. No carriers. That makes life now a lot easier. You have also seen that the vet vaccinated the cattle. This is against the blue tongue, as they call it here, and it has to be done a second time after 21 days, and before that we cannot get the permit to ship them anywhere. There is an exception within the province of Cordoba, but there is no buyer. So we have to wait 21 days, and then the cattle can actually leave. As you can see, I chopped down quite a bit of the soil making plants around the trees. The trees is what counts, everything else is just a tool to meet an end, and that means more biomass. And I chopped this down maybe 2 days ago, and I continued watering the same way as before, and quite a bit, as you might be able to see here. You see the glistering water. And now the sun hemp that was held back by the abundance of sunflowers, that was a little bit a mistake that was done, is now coming up, but also a lot of wheat that occurs naturally here. I don't care, because everything that grows definitely adds more biomass to the soil. In fact, what we are looking for is necromass. So once the stuff has been decomposed, and that should help to feed the trees. I should mention that unlike the trees over there that are in their second year, these trees here were planted in the soil as it is. So they have not received any compost or potting soil or whatever. They are here for the dog enclosure, either to be chopped and turned into wood chips or to provide shade, and how they grow is not really important as long as they are there and eventually are tall enough, like the one over there, to provide shade here. So this is also a little bit of comparison. What happens, how this mix of different plants growing side by side is helpful. And can we plant the things at the same time, or do we have to do this in 2 consecutive years? We have another patch where there are no trees, but the rest of the mix. So this will be interesting. I keep saying I need to see things working out here, and if that takes 2-3 years more, then so be it. Remember, the objective is not to produce something to make ends meet. The idea is to get this place green, and in a way that it will stay green with minimum or no maintenance eventually. It should be eventually a Mediterranean forest, and using plants from elsewhere is a tool, and also an adaptation. So if the climate gets hotter, well, then the plants have to be those that can strive in a hotter climate. Doesn't help to go back to 1900 when the climate was different. So the idea in life is always to adapt. So if the environment changes, then I have to adapt. So the other thing that I wanted to mention is, when I cut down all this, I did this pretty high, because I noticed that corn and sunflowers keep growing, and also the sun hemp. So they even have cobs at some point in the case of the corn. So this continues to grow, but a little bit more light comes now to the soil, and it of course consumes less water, because the plant's body is of water, carbon and water, and that should help the trees. But mostly I did this so that the trees get more light, and this seems to be working out. I was careful to select a little bit whenever possible, so a sunflower that is almost opening the flower I left standing, but those that suffered from the lack of water, because it was very hard to keep up with the watering, I cut down. This one I left. Maybe it will recover, maybe not. So I tried to be a little bit selective. And there, for example, this provides some cover for this tree. And it was suffering lack of water here at the top. And now it is making new leaves. It will probably shed the two damaged ones. We will see. Maybe the left one will recover, but the one to the right is certainly beyond repair. But it continues growing and it makes no leaf. So this is all looking very good. Of course, there are some setbacks and some difficulties, but that's not an issue. And now that I found better irrigation equipment, soon, I think in about 3 weeks, we are in a position to have them here and try it. We will try this in a patch over there to give this a try. So the plan is to try our 2 pumps to figure out how many of these wobblers we can install, and you will be participating in this experiment via video. So this will be a dedicated thing once the material is here, and then we can all learn something about this. So we will measure the pressure and do all the different things and figure out how many of those wobbler we can connect to the same line and all that. It's going to be interesting. My hope is that we will be able to install these wobblers all over the compound to get rid of the manual watering, because it's very time consuming. So if I see this right, basically between 11 and 3 o'clock, 11 is the earliest we can start because the sun is required to provide power to the pump, and when we are through, it is 3 o'clock. So I'm basically spending all that time going from one watering place to the next, and I have some other things that I need to do. And the moment I have an IT client, I cannot be the watering guy anymore. Of course, once we have no more bovines, they have passed their health check today, and once they are gone, then we are free to really dedicate all our effort and resources on the other topic. We have to wait those 21 days until we can definitely ship them. So that was it here for this patch.